Hi guys, first of all apologies, I'm going to butcher all the place names in this video. Now recently I was on a cruise that visited Kristiansand in Norway, so I decided to take a trip to the Setesdal vintage narrow gauge railway, which is situated about 20 kilometres or 12.5 miles north of the town. The route is about 8 kilometres or 5 miles long, running between Grovane and Roiknes stations. There are 2 stations, one at each end of the line, and from the footage you'll see another building about halfway along, which might be used by someone overseeing a passing point if 2 trains are running. Something like looking after the points or a token system. Now the journey itself takes around 30 minutes end to end, which isn't that long, but it does run along some beautiful countryside. Now the railway was the first in Norway to be preserved just 2 years after the full line's closure in 1962. The original full line ran between Kristiansand and Bjoren, which is around 78 kilometres or 48.5 miles in length, and opened in 1896. It was built in 1067mm or 3'6" gauge tracks to ship goods and people to the coastal port. Now the line would have had numerous spurs, and on their website it says that at its peak it had over 1,300 kilometres or 800 miles of track. In the mid-1930s, a new line was laid from Setesdalsbanen in standard 1435mm or 4'8.5" gauge, and in 1938 this line reached Grovane. Now, the track between Grovane and Kristiansand was then relayed in standard gauge, which unfortunately meant the trains from the original Bjoren branch had to then terminate at Grovane. Now, any goods or people wishing to go further had to change there from that point on, which was likely the start of the end of the line, because by this point, there were faster methods to make that journey. For my journey, I was taken to Grovane station by coach, and at Grovane we had a very quick look around. The station is still in use with the state railway, but does have some facilities for tourists. In the garden there's some info about the tourist line, and inside the building there's a gift shop as well as a waiting room. The station is very unlike a UK station, as the tracks are all fenced off. I suspect this is due to there being no bridge to the island platform. The gate was opened and we were let across once our train was ready to depart. You'll notice in the footage the 2 nearest tracks are standard gauge and are electrified with overhead lines. There's 3 tracks to the far side of the platform in narrow gauge. The furthest track looks to be used as a siding. The middle track would be used for the loco runaround, and the nearest to the platform to embark and disembark the train. The loco hauling us is number 6 and is a Type 22. It was constructed in 1922 at the Thune mech workshop and was custom built for the line. The Type 22s were mainly for passenger services. Thune was a Norwegian manufacturing company established in 1815. They had their headquarters in Oslo and a factory in Skøyen. As we were led on, I rushed to the front brake luggage van. Now initially I found a window seat on the left hand side and plonked myself down, but later on, as you'll see, I find a spot right at the front of the train with far better views. Initially being on the left is pretty good though, as we get to see the yards as we pass it. You might see a diesel there. Sometimes the train is hauled by diesel, and we were told the day before this would happen as the weather had been really dry over the weeks prior to our visit, and running steam would have been dangerous. But a couple of days before there was a deluge of rain, which very much worked in our favour as the steam engine was allowed out. The art buildings were all built at various times. The central building with 3 doors was built in 1938 and is the home of Loco 1, 5 and 6. There's also various other workshops for their diesels and rolling stock. There's a warehouse where equipment is stored and was built around 1946, a coal bunker, utility room with a full bathroom and accommodation. The carriage workshop has 3 tracks and can hold up to 9 carriages. This is the newest building. It was completed in 1996. Now, what did cross my mind as I went by, that if this was the UK, the workshop area would be open to the public. Now, I didn't see the option, and if not, it's a huge pity, as doing so could generate extra income and interest for the line. We now say goodbye to the yards and we're heading into the countryside. I've been told that just a few days before the vegetation had all looked dead due to the drought, but the rain over the last couple of days had brought everything back to life again. And suddenly a body of water appears. It's part of the Otra River which flows down to Kristiansand. The line follows the route of the river, so we'll see quite a bit of it during the journey. On the opposite bank we see Steinsfoss Power Station. This is a hydroelectric plant generating an estimated 561 gigawatt hour of energy per year. It was commissioned in 1957 and uses 3 waterfalls with a total drop of 57.4 metres to generate its electricity. The wooden trough we see in the foreground is a lumber slide. The log flume is the only one of its type still in Norway and these days is used for hiking. It's about 4 kilometres or 2.5 miles long and takes around 2.5 hours to walk. I have to admit, it's making me want to go back just to walk it. As you can see, we've moved to the front of the train where we get an excellent view of the loco. What we can also see is how narrow it gets in places. Building a line would be a colossal task, and they really did only dig or blast out what was absolutely necessary to get the line built. Our loco has been painted in what it would have looked like in the 1920s. Now in 1927, the line also started to run rail buses. These were single car, self-propelled units which should have meant they could have just run up and down the line. They were cheap and easy to run alternative to steam, but for some reason they only had a single cab at one end, meaning they had to be turned around at each terminus, plus they only had 30 seats. In 1932, these got replaced by new units, which corrected this and had 56 seats. One of these, number 2672, was also used to aid the line's demolition after closure. This saved it though, as by now there are 3 others, 2 of which were torn apart straight after closure, and the third had its engine removed. 2672 is preserved, but hasn't been used since the mid-1970s and needs a major overhaul. I wonder if it will ever run again. The Heritage Railway has 4 steam locos in total, number 1, 2, 5 and 6. We're riding number 6 and it's a Type 22, and as mentioned earlier, this was built mainly for passenger services. The others are all Type 21s, which were mainly built for freight. Number 5 has been fully restored and is operational. Number 2 is waiting a boiler overhaul. And number 1 is not operational. I think this means it's in a bit of a worse state. The original railway also ran 2 Type 26s, now numbers 80 and 81. Number 81 currently resides in the Norwegian Railway Museum and has been cosmetically restored. These originally had the job to assist trains to get up steep gradients. We're now passing what was the terminus for the Heritage Line between 1996 and 2004. Holderland station wasn't a station on the original line, but was created as the Heritage Line got extended. As well as a station, it's also used as a crossing place so 2 trains can pass each other if needed. So while we have a moment, let's talk about the location and the line. We're in the Setesdalbanen Valley. The River Otra flows through it. In the 1800s, the only real method for getting around would have been the river, and in the 1860s, steamboats were purchased for passenger services. Soon after, the idea to place a road next to the river was proposed, and then perhaps even to build a railway. Preparation for the line started in 1891. A construction proper began in January 93. The line was quicker than expected to build and partially opened in 1895 with a full opening in 96. The steamboats were moved up to Bjoren station at the end of the line to create a new connection that took passengers over to the local lake. The line was successful, making a small profit up to the 1920s. In 1919 to 1920, the line took around 40,000 travellers and approximately 130,000 tonnes of goods. In the early 1920s though, people started buying cars, so passenger numbers started to drop off. So the line adapted and bought rail buses. These were successful, and there was once again an upturn in ridership. The brake van we travel in is number 737. Now, originally constructed in 1898 by Skabies as a full passenger carriage, but had a rebuild in 1931, reducing the seat number to 31, adding electric lights, moving the toilet to the end, and adding in a metal compartment. They class it as a CDFO Type 4. Now, it seems the line didn't really need this carriage, so it was modified once more just after. Google Translate lets us down here, but I think the original refit had 3 compartments: a passenger, a luggage and a brake compartment. Now, I'm certain, but I think they might have merged the brake and luggage compartments into one, giving more space for the passenger seating. And all too soon our journey has ended, but this leads us neatly into the final chapters of the original line story. In the late 1940s, a number of industries closed though, which hurt profitability. There was talk in the 1950s to change the line to standard gauge, which might have meant the running through to Kristiansand again, but in the 1960s it was decided to close the line. On the 1st of September, Saturday 1st September 1962, the last train ran. On Sunday the 2nd, a fully loaded special also ran, but that was it, because on the 3rd of September demolition began and everything closed. But that wasn't to be the end. In 1963, enthusiasts formed the Setesdalsbanen Hobby Club, and in 1964 the first train ran. As time went by, they expanded and the club became a foundation, and in 2004 the line was extended to Wiki station, where it terminates today. The station is quite simple, with a couple of buildings, one of which houses a shop kiosk. The track layout is also pretty simple, with 1 small siding and 2 tracks, which allow the engines to do a run around. Now, what's interesting here, watching the gentleman going behind the engine, you sort of wonder what he's doing. It does seem the points do need some sort of securing, perhaps. Now, we can't really see what he's doing right now, but we'll be able to once the train goes beyond the points in a second. Very friendly though, as you can see, there's a gentleman on his bicycle on the left hand side. Now, he's changed the points over, you can see the points have changed. Now he's going to reverse. He's holding there. He puts the points back again. Now watch him secure something on the track there. So it does seem that by itself we can't actually hold the points in place. Interesting, I've not seen that before. That gentleman on the bike has got a very good view with his phone there, hasn't he? Obviously filming everything. It does look like the drivers are actually, and the firemen are very happy to chat with him also, so no, they're all very friendly there. But what's the loco come back and hitch up to the carriages, and that'll be it for the video. Now, if you'd like to visit the railway, you can, like me, book it through a cruise, or more realistically, you can visit their website to find out available dates. I'll of course leave links in the description. An adult one-way ticket at the time of making this video in August 2023 cost 110 krona, which is about £8.31, $10.55 US, or €9.64. Kids between 4 and 15 cost 55 krona, which is £4.15, $5.27, or €4.82, and children 3 and under go for free. I'd recommend staying in Kristiansand if you'd like to visit. It does have an airport, and flights from the UK take, well, 7 hours plus depending on your route, and will require at least 1 change. Now, it would be difficult to recommend this as a weekend break, but as part of a larger holiday, maybe also visiting Oslo, which is just down the coast, it would make for a fantastic getaway. In the description, I include links to all the resources I used to make this video, as well as other useful info that I can think of. And once again, I am very sorry for slaughtering the place names. Well, thank you very much for watching. It was a slightly different type of video today. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press the like button. If you want to see more, please subscribe and press that ding dong bell when you know what it does. See you next time, guys. Goodbye.